Ethan and Sophia were the perfect couple, everyone's idea of relationship goals. They'd first crossed paths at a lively college party, where their eyes met across a room filled with music and laughter, sparking an instant connection. That night, they fell deeply and quickly in love, the kind of passion that poets could only dream of capturing. Over time, their relationship had solidified, becoming a fortress, unshaken by the usual trials life threw their way. But even the strongest fortresses can fall. The once blazing fire between them had dwindled to a faint ember. The routine of everyday life, work pressures, and the relentless cycle of monotony slowly eroded the foundation of their marriage. Sophia, bored and craving the excitement she once felt so effortlessly, found herself drawn to a younger man's attention. It was a dangerous game, but one she couldn't bring herself to resist. Ethan sat in the living room, lost in thoughts of the past. He remembered their early days together, laughter that seemed to echo in the air like music and dreams that soared with boundless potential. But now, those moments felt like they belonged to a different time. He glanced at Sophia as she prepared for yet another night out, her outfit striking and provocative, a sharp contrast to the casual, distant nature of their home life. "Don't look at me like that, Ethan," Sophia said, slipping on a pair of heels. "Women in their 40s need to find a little fun with younger guys sometimes." Ethan leaned back in his chair, swirling his drink in his hand, and flashed her a cold, humorless smile. "And end up divorced, right?" he shot back. Sophia's eyes narrowed, a flash of anger mixed with an air of superiority. "You won't divorce me," she replied with unnerving confidence. "You love me, and I love you. This is just a distraction, something temporary. You wouldn't throw away everything we have over something so insignificant." Ethan's laugh was short, almost mocking. "Oh, how modern of you," he said, sarcasm dripping from every word. "You're right, it's practically a trend these days. Hell, even Lillian Hayes, Mrs. Perfect on the outside, has a lover. Isn't it just precious how everyone pretends their marriages are perfect while sneaking around behind closed doors?" Sophia's face tightened, but she said nothing. The silence between them was thick with all the words they didn't say. Ethan took a slow sip from his glass, keeping his eyes fixed on hers. "Go ahead, Sophia," he said, voice dripping with disdain. "Enjoy your night out. Just remember, every distraction comes with a price." When the doorbell rang, Sophia cast a quick glance at Ethan. "Could you get that?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Ethan didn't even look up from his newspaper. "Nope," he replied flatly, as if she'd asked him to do something unbearable. "I'm not welcoming your boyfriend." With a resigned sigh, Sophia went to answer the door, where Lucas, her 32-year-old date, was waiting, looking polished and patient. "Sorry about that," she said, nodding toward Ethan, still firmly planted on the couch. "He's having a hard time with this whole thing." Lucas offered a calm, understanding smile that said, "Don't worry about it. I've seen worse." It was one of the things that drew Sophia to him, the easy confidence, the sense of knowing exactly how to handle these situations. Back inside, Sophia tried to smooth things over with Ethan. "Lucas is not my boyfriend," she said, standing in front of him, her tone firm. "Yet. And let's not forget, we've been together for 20 years. I've been loyal and supportive. I deserve a little freedom." Ethan shot her a look, his eyes burning with the sting of her words. "Freedom to do what? Date some guy you met at Starbucks?" Sophia nodded without hesitation, unashamed. "I met Lucas at the Starbucks in my office building. His flirty banter made me feel young again. Everyone else is having affairs with younger men, so why not me? Tonight's just another step." Lucas had arrived in a sleek, late-model Mercedes, the kind of car that practically shouted, "I've made it." At the restaurant, he tipped the valet like it was nothing and led Sophia inside, his confidence radiating. "I'm so glad you agreed to come out with me, Sophia," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "You're an incredibly beautiful woman." She smiled, though there was a guarded edge to it. "Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate the compliment, but I love my husband. I'm not leaving him." Lucas didn't flinch. "All I wanted was a pleasant evening with an intelligent, beautiful woman. And here we are. The night unfolded smoothly, with their earlier chats over coffee laying the groundwork for the evening. After a delicious dinner, they moved on to a jazz club, swaying to the rhythm of the music. As the night wore on, Lucas grew bolder. His hand casually rested on her thigh. She didn't mind. In fact, it was exhilarating. Around midnight, they left the club. In the car, they kissed, passionately, fiercely, until Sophia pulled away, breathless. "I should get home," she said, glancing at him with a hint of regret. "When can I see you again?" Lucas asked, his voice full of eager anticipation. "I can't meet you every day," she replied. "How about Sunday?" he suggested. "Do you like the ballet? My cousin can get us tickets. I've never been, but I'd love to go. Ethan isn't into that kind of thing, so I'll meet you there." They settled on lunch at 11 a.m. and made their plans. When Sophia got home, she kissed Lucas goodbye, steeling herself for whatever awaited her inside. To her surprise, Ethan was already in bed, fast asleep. In the bathroom, she wiped off her makeup, debating whether she should wake him. She feared the cold, silent treatment if she didn't. "Ethan," she called softly. He stirred, barely awake. "What? Do you want to talk?" "No, I want to sleep." "Okay," she whispered, heading for the bedroom. "I'll get ready for bed." Just as she was about to lie down, she paused. "Actually, I have a question," she said, stepping back out in her nightgown, a deliberate move to remind him she was still his. Ethan's eyes narrowed, suspicion creeping into his voice. "Okay, what's the question?" "Did you sleep with him?" he asked bluntly. "No, Ethan," she replied. "It was just a date." "I've never had sex on a first date, Ethan." "You know that," Sophia said, trying to steady her voice. Ethan nodded, but his skepticism remained. "Yeah, but now you're just looking for a fling, not a husband. I thought maybe things had changed. Are you seeing him again?" "We're going to the ballet on Sunday and having lunch," Sophia replied. Ethan scoffed. "So this isn't supposed to affect us? But you're seeing him Friday night and Sunday afternoon, our usual time together." Sophia sighed, realizing he wasn't really listening. He turned his back, lying down in bed. She finished getting ready, hoping Ethan would come to terms with their new reality. The next morning, Sophia wasn't surprised to find Ethan gone. She expected him to need time to adjust, but as the day went on, it became clear he was avoiding her. Knowing he worked Saturdays, she decided to check his office. His car was parked there, just as expected. After signing in at security, she took the elevator to the 7th floor and headed toward Ethan's office. "Hello, Ethan," she greeted, walking into the room. "Sophia," he said curtly. "Victor told me you were coming up. What do you want?" "To spend time with my husband," she said, trying to sound calm. "Really?" he shot back, his tone biting. "Is your boyfriend busy today?" "Stop being childish, Ethan," she snapped. "You've never been the only person in my life. I see my friends every day. Unless you're sleeping with them, it's not the same," Ethan countered. "I'm sorry this is hard for you," Sophia said, softer now. "But I've reassured you that my actions won't change how I feel about you or our marriage." "I love you, Ethan," she continued. "I want a long life together." Ethan's eyes were cold. "Then why are you doing this? Is hurting me how you show love? You're being incredibly selfish." Sophia's patience was running thin. "I could say the same. My relationship with him isn't more important than my friendships. I don't see why you're making such a big deal out of it." "You can't even say his name," Ethan said, disgusted. "Keeping him anonymous doesn't make it any less damaging." "I don't remember the last time I went on a date with a friend," Sophia replied. "But I went on one with him last night, and I'll do it again tomorrow. He seems more important to you." Ethan's jaw clenched. "As I said last night, these are the only times I can see him. I've never jumped into bed with someone, not even in college," Sophia explained. "Until you get to the screwing part," Ethan muttered. "I'll be discreet, Ethan," she assured him. "You won't even know when it happens. I'll keep it separate from our time together." Ethan's voice was dripping with sarcasm. "Great. At least you'll be discreet. Anything else?" Sophia winced but didn't protest. "I wanted to spend the day with you," she said quietly. Ethan glanced up from his work. The quarterly reports are due, Sophia. I'm always here all day Saturday gathering data. I expected us to spend Friday night and Sunday together, but I guess I'm not a priority anymore. Sophia's face softened. I'm sorry, Ethan. I've been caught up in everything and forgot. Ethan waved his hand dismissively. Whatever. I have work to do. It matters to me, Ethan, Sophia insisted. Ethan paused. Okay then, how about we go to the coast tonight after I finish? We can have dinner at Devereaux's and spend the day tomorrow. Sophia hesitated. The ballet tickets are paid for. I'd feel bad canceling on Lucas now. Ethan's voice was cold. That's fine. I didn't expect you to say yes anyway. You can leave now, he added, clearly losing interest. Sophia sighed and left, hoping things would improve eventually. She believed Ethan would come around, that he'd eventually accept her happiness. She planned to keep things slow with Lucas, just dating and getting to know him better, until Ethan was more accepting. She didn't want to ruin her marriage, but she needed this. Ethan didn't return until nearly midnight, as usual before quarterly reports. Sophia realized he knew she'd pick Lucas over a last-minute plan, but she still hoped he might be in the mood for intimacy. After long workdays, he often sought out quiet closeness, and sometimes they would end up making love. Sophia waited for him, undressed beneath the comforter, her bare shoulders exposed. When Ethan entered the room, she asked, "How was work, honey?" "Same as usual," Ethan replied. "Got all the data compiled, so next week's reporting should go smoothly." He began undressing but headed into the bathroom to change. When he emerged in his shorts, Sophia lowered the comforter, revealing herself. "Darling," she said softly, "I thought we could reconnect tonight." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure your boyfriend wouldn't mind?" he asked, biting. "Ethan," Sophia said, her voice tense, "comments like that aren't helping. Can't we just enjoy ourselves tonight as husband and wife?" Ethan was clearly conflicted. Despite everything, he still loved her, and still found her attractive. He assumed she hadn't slept with Lucas yet, but suspected they'd at least made out. He didn't want to lose her, but if she went all the way with Lucas, he wouldn't be able to touch her. He dropped his shorts, and Sophia smiled, her eyes glimmering with the hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. The next 2 hours were a fragile attempt at reconnection. Ethan clung to the hope that Sophia would abandon her plans with Lucas, while Sophia tried to prove she could satisfy Ethan while still pursuing her own desires. But as time passed, she became increasingly uneasy. At 10 a.m., she finally got up. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I have to get ready," she said, choosing Lucas over him once again. Ethan silently dressed, his mood sour. He felt a sharp sting as he saw her prepare to meet her lover. Without a word, he left the room. Sophia watched him go, a pang of guilt in her chest. She had enjoyed their time together, but couldn't stop herself from going to Lucas. She showered to rid herself of Ethan's scent, then dressed in a modest but alluring outfit. Calling for Ethan to say goodbye, she found no answer. Seeing their Mustang gone, she sighed and headed out, unaware that a sedan had been following her. Lucas greeted her with a reassuring smile when they met. "No problem about the delay," he said. The lunch was relaxed, and for a brief moment, Sophia thought about how she could bring Ethan here sometime. The food was excellent, and she enjoyed the easy conversation with Lucas. The ballet was equally enchanting. Lucas's knowledge impressed her, and his insights about the performance reminded her of the experiences she'd missed with Ethan. It wasn't a criticism, just a realization of their differences. Afterward, they drove to a scenic overlook, where Lucas's compliment made her feel beautiful. "I feel lucky you're here with me, Sophia," he said, and they kissed passionately. Sophia felt overwhelmed by desire and wondered if she could wait until their 5th date. But, reluctantly, she pulled away. "I'm sorry, Lucas. I want to, but I have boundaries." Lucas, though disappointed, understood. "I get it. You want to feel comfortable before we go further. But all our coffee dates should count for something, right?" "Yeah," Sophia agreed. "Maybe I'm being too rigid. When can we do a long lunch?" "Not Monday, but Tuesday works," Lucas replied. "I'll bring what we need." "Okay, I'll give you the details tomorrow morning," she said. By the time Sophia got home around 6:30 p.m., She was elated but didn't find a message from Ethan. She quickly changed into loungewear and started preparing dinner. Just as she was finishing, Ethan came in through the garage. "Hi, honey. Have a good drive?" she asked, attempting to start a conversation. "It was fine," Ethan replied curtly, avoiding her eyes. He turned his cheek when she tried to kiss him. At least he was talking to her, but she could feel the distance between them. Dinner would be ready in 20 minutes, she told him, but Ethan didn't respond. "I'll be in the office," he said. She quickly made teriyaki stir-fry, then called him to dinner. He joined her, but the conversation felt strained. "Where did you drive today?" she asked. "Nowhere in particular," Ethan replied. "I just drove along the highway." "Did you stop anywhere?" she pressed. "I had lunch at a small deli off the freeway," he said, his voice distant. Sophia tried to continue talking about her day, mentioning the ballet, but Ethan cut her off. "I don't care about your date, Sophia." "This isn't about that," she tried, but he interrupted again. "Not another word about it." Ethan got up, leaving his meal half-eaten, and went to his office. Sophia sat there for a few moments, then cleared the table and packaged the leftovers for his lunch. She spent the rest of the evening straightening the house, hoping Ethan would emerge from his office. She wanted to salvage the evening and talk about the ballet, thinking it might help him see her connection with Lucas as separate from their marriage. Later, she prepared for bed, still hoping Ethan would join her. But by midnight, it seemed he was waiting for her to fall asleep first. She went to his office. "Are you coming to bed?" she asked quietly. "Eventually. I have things to finish," he replied. "Please, Ethan," she pleaded. "Come to bed. Lay beside me. Make love, cuddle, or just lie quietly. Please don't avoid me." Ethan's voice was cold. "I have things to finish. If you think that's avoidance, I can't help it. The sooner I finish, the sooner I can come to bed." Sophia reluctantly returned to bed, no longer interested in reading. She wondered if she was feeling guilty or simply projecting, but she quickly dismissed the thought. She believed she wasn't doing anything wrong, that she still loved Ethan, and that he was avoiding her on purpose. She turned off the light and fell asleep, only to wake up alone the next morning. Ethan had already left for work. Sophia woke up alone the next morning, the tension between her and Ethan hanging in the air. Despite her reassurances, Ethan seemed increasingly distant. She had tried to explain that nothing would change between them, but she could feel the fracture deepening. She couldn't keep begging him to understand, so she decided to continue with Lucas while still being a loving wife to Ethan. After breakfast, she headed to Starbucks as usual. She spotted Lucas in his usual corner and joined him after grabbing a coffee. "I couldn't stop thinking about you last night," Lucas said, his eyes warm. "Same here," Sophia replied. "I'm looking forward to tomorrow." Lucas handed her a note with his condo's address. "My place offers more privacy than a hotel," he said, his tone soft but suggestive. Sophia took the note. "Thanks for being discreet, Lucas. I don't want to hurt Ethan more than I already have." "Of course," Lucas said, his voice reassuring. After they chatted briefly, Lucas left for work, and Sophia met her friends. She had yet to tell them about Lucas, even though she suspected they might understand. It wasn't that she was ashamed. It was that she feared Ethan would find out. When she returned home that evening, Ethan greeted her warmly. They shared a pleasant dinner, avoiding any mention of Lucas. For the first time in days, Sophia felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe Ethan was starting to accept her relationship with Lucas. The next day, Sophia arrived at Lucas's condo feeling excited. As soon as she stepped inside, Lucas pulled her close, kissing her deeply. Within minutes, they were making love with an intensity Sophia hadn't felt in a long time. "That was amazing," Sophia said afterward, breathless. "Better than your husband?" Lucas asked, a teasing smile on his lips. Sophia sat up, meeting his gaze. "My husband is off limits. He's a wonderful lover. But if you turn this into a competition, I'm done." Lucas raised his hands in mock surrender. "I didn't mean it that way. I just want to make sure you're satisfied." "I am," Sophia replied, relaxing into his arms. "But let's keep this about us, not comparisons." They spent the next few hours enjoying each other's company, sharing stories and laughs. Sophia appreciated Lucas's attentiveness and the ease of their connection. It was different from her marriage with Ethan, fresher, more carefree, without the same expectations. When it was time to go, Sophia showered, using her own soap and shampoo to avoid leaving any traces of Lucas behind. She didn't want Ethan to know. When she arrived home, she quickly checked herself in the mirror. She hoped her efforts would be enough to keep the secret. Ethan came in a little later, greeted her with a quick kiss, and then froze. "You had sex with him today, didn't you?" Ethan's voice was sharp. Sophia's heart sank. "What? Ethan, why would you say that? You've showered midday before, but not recently. The smell of your soap, it's too strong," he said, eyes narrowing. Sophia froze. She hadn't thought about the lingering scent. She'd hoped her precautions would work. "I haven't been with him," she protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Ethan pushed past her and headed to the office, leaving Sophia standing in the hallway, her stomach tight with anxiety. She'd hoped to keep her secret, but now it seemed Ethan had caught on. Dinner, which Sophia had prepared with care, was ignored as Ethan retreated into his work. She packed it away, realizing there was nothing she could do to make things right tonight. That evening, she went to bed alone, the weight of her choices heavy on her mind. She was torn between her love for Ethan and her growing connection with Lucas. She had tried to convince herself that she wasn't doing anything wrong, but now it felt like everything was unraveling. Around 4 a.m., Sophia woke to find Ethan still asleep at his desk, his posture strained and uncomfortable. She shook him gently. "Ethan, come to bed," she said, her voice soft. "You can't sleep like this. It'll hurt your back." Ethan stirred, bleary-eyed. "I have work to do." "No, you don't. Come to bed, please," Sophia urged, helping him to his feet. Reluctantly, Ethan allowed her to guide him to their bedroom. As she started undressing him, he pulled away. "Stop, Sophia," he said sharply. "Get your filthy hands off me." Sophia froze, her heart breaking. In 25 years of marriage, Ethan had never raised his voice like this. She sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes stinging with tears. "I'm sorry," Ethan said softly, "but I don't want you touching me after you've been with him." The words hit Sophia like a slap. She had tried to hold everything together, but now it felt like everything was falling apart. She had hoped that she could have both Lucas and Ethan, but she didn't know if that was even possible anymore. Ethan stood up and paced the room. "I just can't stand the thought of you with him. I don't know how to get past it." Sophia wiped her eyes, trying to keep her composure. "Ethan, I love you. This is about me too. I need to feel wanted, desired. And I don't know how to make you understand that." Ethan didn't respond. He just turned away, his back to her, his shoulders stiff with the weight of his emotions. Sophia remained sitting on the bed, feeling lost. She had always thought love was enough, that it could fix anything. But now she wasn't so sure. She didn't know how to fix this, if it could even be fixed. Sophia eventually left the room, retreating to the bathroom, her mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. She still loved Ethan, but she also wanted Lucas. She couldn't imagine giving up either of them, but she knew the path she was on might lead to losing everything. Sophia quietly accepted Ethan's continued avoidance, understanding it was more in his mind than a matter of hygiene. She apologized again, saying she would leave him to his feelings. She hoped in time, Ethan would come to terms with her affair. She never considered ending her relationship with Lucas. Instead, she saw it as a test of her own resolve. After checking on Ethan, she found him asleep and returned to bed herself, sleeping soundly. The next day, Ethan worked late, sending a text to let her know. Sophia realized she couldn't do more to help him through this. She knew what she had to say when they finally spoke. Thursday morning, she was buzzing with anticipation to see Lucas. They had agreed on meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mondays were out due to Lucas's busy schedule, and she avoided weekends to preserve her time with Ethan. Her meeting with friends felt like an eternity. As soon as it ended, she hurried out to make her way to Lucas's condo. He was waiting on the bed when she arrived, and they wasted no time, diving straight into an intense 3-hour session. Lucas's flexible schedule allowed them the luxury of time, and though she would never admit it, Sophia found him to be a better lover than Ethan. His experience with many women made him more skilled and responsive. Afterward, Sophia checked her phone for messages from Ethan, but found none. Assuming he would be home at the usual time, she drove back, showered thoroughly, aware it might tip Ethan off, then dressed in her loungewear and waited. Ethan arrived just before 7 p.m. "Good evening, honey. Will you be eating my cooking tonight?" she asked. "I'm fine. I grabbed something on the way home," Ethan replied curtly. "You know fast food isn't good for you," she admonished lightly. "Yeah, well, I'll be in the office," he muttered, dismissing her. Sophia tried again. "Ethan, I'd like to talk to you when you have a few minutes." He agreed with a sigh and went to his office, closing the door behind him. Sophia worked on the fundraiser, but soon realized Ethan wasn't going to initiate the conversation. She went to his office, knocking gently. "Ethan, can we talk now?" she asked. "Sure," he sighed again. Sophia sat across from him. "Honey, I love you very much. I don't think my relationship with Lucas affects our marriage, but I know you do. This is something I need and want. I hoped you'd be more understanding, but I'll be patient. I'll be here every evening and weekend, hoping we can move past this. If you ignore me, I'll accept it, but I'll still be here," she explained softly. "So, you're still seeing Lucas?" Ethan asked quietly, his voice tight. "Yes, I am," she replied, then paused. "Did you think I wouldn't find out his name?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "I thought you'd prefer not to know." Sophia nodded. "I'll start showering every weekday afternoon to avoid tipping you off. I won't be seeing him as often, but I need consistency." Ethan looked at her, his expression pained. "And this is your final decision? Nothing will change your mind?" "I'm sorry, Ethan, but no. This is what I need," Sophia confirmed. Ethan smiled wryly, though his eyes were full of hurt. "I appreciate your honesty, even if it's not what I wanted to hear." Sophia stood up, softly saying, "I love you, Ethan. I hope you can separate my love for you from my physical needs that Lucas fulfills." Ethan didn't respond. He simply nodded, clearly struggling. Sophia left the room, her heart heavy but her decision made. The conversation had been difficult, but she felt a sense of relief. She hoped Ethan would eventually come to terms with her affair and realize it didn't change how much she loved him. The rest of the week passed with minimal interaction. Ethan remained distant, and Sophia spent her time at home, keeping busy with errands and work. On Saturday, she tried to initiate lovemaking, but Ethan deflected her attempts. She remained hopeful, thinking it was just a phase and that things would improve with time. By Monday, Ethan had left early for work again. Sophia suspected this distance would continue for a while, but she still believed it was temporary. Midday showers, though inconvenient, were a small price to pay to keep things smooth between them. At her usual coffee meet-up with friends, Sophia couldn't help but think of Lucas. Paige noticed her flushed cheeks. "Are you okay, Sophia? You're looking a little red," Paige asked, concerned. "I'm fine," Sophia replied quickly, taking a sip of water to cool down. "Just a little warm." Monday night with Ethan was cold, and Sophia spent the evening preparing for her Tuesday meeting with Lucas. When she arrived, Lucas greeted her in a robe, which quickly fell to the floor as they dove into another passionate session. After 90 minutes of intense lovemaking, they lay together, relaxed. "How are things at home?" Lucas asked with genuine concern. "Do you feel like you're in danger with Ethan?" "Thank you for asking, Lucas. But no, Ethan isn't like that. He's struggling, but he's not a threat. He's just distant," Sophia explained. "I'm doing everything I can to assure him I love him. It's just going to take time for him to see you're not a threat to our marriage." "That's a good sign," Lucas noted, his tone reassuring. "You're still talking, even if it's minimal." "We talk in short phrases, only when necessary. I tell him I love him, and I make sure I'm here for him," Sophia said softly, feeling the weight of her dual life. They spent another hour together, and Sophia left feeling sated but conflicted. She showered thoroughly and spent the rest of the day reading, waiting for Ethan to come home. Ethan arrived home at 7:36 p.m., and Sophia greeted him warmly. "Hi, honey. How was work?" "It was fine," he replied curtly. "Would you like dinner tonight?" she offered. "I had a late lunch." "I'm fine," Ethan answered, turning away. "Anything you'd like to talk about?" Sophia asked gently. "No, I'll be in the office," he said, closing the door behind him. Sophia stood there, silently. She wondered how much of Ethan's office time was actually work and how much was spent avoiding her. She resolved to give him space and busied herself with a book, confident she was doing the right thing. For the next several weeks, Sophia continued to meet Lucas every Tuesday and Thursday. Their passionate sessions left her feeling satisfied and more alive than she'd felt in months. Evenings and weekends with Ethan remained distant but civil. He declined her offers to share meals, retreating to the office each night. Sophia filled the silence with charity work, TV, and the occasional online browsing. Despite the loneliness, she believed she could balance a loving marriage with the excitement Lucas provided. 3 months passed, and Sophia began to notice a shift in Ethan. His mood improved, even if he still came home later than usual. They started having dinner together a few nights a week, sometimes even watching TV or reading side by side. Although they hadn't resumed lovemaking, Sophia took the change as a sign of progress. But after another 3 months without intimacy, the distance between them felt more like that of roommates than a married couple. Sophia missed the closeness of their physical relationship. That evening, she decided to confront Ethan. "Ethan, I appreciate your understanding about Lucas," she began. "I know this hasn't been easy for you." "Well, you didn't give me much choice," Ethan responded flatly. "I know, and I'm sorry, but I'm concerned about our lack of sex. We haven't made love since I started seeing Lucas, and I miss it. When can we take the next step?" Sophia asked, her voice tinged with frustration. "I have no intention of having sex with you," Ethan said bluntly, shocking her. "Ethan, that's ridiculous. I always make sure I'm clean for you. There's no reason for us not to be intimate," Sophia protested. "You made a choice, Sophia, and you forced it on me," he shot back. "I can make choices too." He stood up and walked away, leaving Sophia stunned. She hadn't expected him to refuse intimacy completely. She'd hoped her affair with Lucas might spur Ethan to reconnect with her, but now she had to rethink her approach. Sophia decided to step up the pressure, but more subtly. She began wearing skimpier clothing around the house, even sleeping naked, hoping to tempt him back into intimacy. For 2 months, she tried to ignite something in him, but he remained indifferent. It had been 8 months since they last made love. Though Lucas satisfied her physical needs, Sophia longed for the emotional connection with Ethan, and frustration began to set in. A month later, Sophia made a decision. She would accept their new reality, however sexless it might be. If Ethan wanted a relationship without intimacy, then so be it. She would express her love in other ways and take whatever he offered. One warm Wednesday morning, Sophia parked her Lexus outside Ethan's office building. She hadn't visited during the day in a while and forgot how busy it was. At the front desk, Derek, Ethan's longtime receptionist, greeted her. "Mrs. Harper, it's good to see you again. It's been a while since your last visit," Derek said with a smile. "Hello, Derek. Is Ethan in his office?" Sophia asked, already walking toward the elevators. "Yes, ma'am, but please wait. He's working with confidential documents," Derek said, picking up the phone to announce her arrival. "Mr. Harper, your wife is here to see you," Derek said into the receiver. Sophia couldn't hear the response, but after a brief pause, Derek looked up. "He'll be a couple of minutes, Mrs. Harper. He needs to secure some documents." Sophia nodded and looked around the office, noticing a mix of familiar and new faces. She spotted Eileen's empty desk, assuming she must have been promoted. A few minutes later, the door to Ethan's office opened, and a young woman stepped out. The woman was shorter than Sophia, with long, dark brown hair and a prominent chest. Sophia felt an immediate dislike. "Mrs. Harper, nice to meet you," the woman said, extending her hand. "I'm Amber. Come on back." Sophia's eyes narrowed. How does she manage not to tip over with those things? She muttered under her breath. Ethan, noticing her comment, sighed. "I assume you didn't come here to insult my assistant." Sophia ignored him, focused on the woman who had just left his office. "What happened to Eileen?" she asked. "She got promoted," Ethan replied tersely. "Promoted to what?" Sophia pressed. "To executive assistant. The job was getting too big for her, and she needed to slow down. I created a position with less responsibility and no travel for her," Ethan explained. So that girl will be traveling with you now? Sophia asked, her jealousy evident. Yes, your jealousy is amusing and ironic, considering the circumstances, Ethan remarked, clearly irritated. Why are you here, Sophia? To take my husband to lunch, she said firmly. Ethan didn't respond immediately. His eyes lingered on her with a mix of weariness and frustration. Sophia held his gaze, determined not to back down. This was her way of asserting herself, of reminding him that despite everything, she still had a claim on him. On a Wednesday? Ethan sounded surprised. Yes, because I miss you, Ethan. I wanted to spend time with you and show that I love you, Sophia explained. Ethan sighed. Fine. They opened a new Vietnamese place nearby. Let's go. They walked in mostly silence, exchanging only a few comments about the things they saw along the way. Sophia held Ethan's arm, and he didn't seem to mind. They were seated quickly, and the hostess greeted Ethan by name, indicating he was a regular. Over dinner, they talked about nothing in particular, and Ethan suggested dishes for Sophia to try. She reached across the table, taking his hand, and he didn't pull away. Do you believe I love you, Ethan? Sophia asked softly. Love me? Ethan replied, his tone bitter. My kind of love doesn't allow for what you did, but your kind does. At least you picked a decent guy. Sophia froze. What do you mean? How do you know about Lucas? Ethan's eyes met hers. I had him investigated. I know you go to his condo every Tuesday and Thursday. I noticed you came today to not miss your time with him. But at least he's not a con man or a gold digger. Sophia defended Lucas. He's not like that. Ethan scoffed. Famous last words. But you're right. He seems to be in it just for the sex. Sophia was taken aback. Ethan, let's change the subject. I came to spend time with you and talk about us. What us, Sophia? Ethan's voice grew colder. We're more like roommates than husband and wife. We haven't made love in nearly a year. Your choice, Sophia retorted. Ethan smirked. Yes, my choice. You chose to cheat on me. Now, no sex, and our time together is just watching TV or being in the same room. That's why I'm here today. I'm not happy with this, and I want to change it. I have no intention of giving up Lucas, but I want our time to be meaningful. Ethan's face hardened. That's what you don't get, Sophia. As long as you're seeing Lucas, this is the most it can be. I don't accept that, Ethan. Our marriage can still be the same. My time with Lucas doesn't affect my time with you. I don't love him. It's like spending time with a friend, Sophia argued, her voice shaking. But it is different. I don't mind you spending time with friends, but I won't pretend nothing's happening while you're with another man. There were 2 people in our marriage. Now there are 3. It's not the same and never will be. Saying you don't love him and just use him for sex makes it worse. What does that make him? A toy. Ethan's voice grew louder with each word. Sophia's attempts to calm him were in vain. When he finished, he stood up, threw a $50 bill on the table, and stormed out. Sophia sat there for a moment, stunned. She quickly gathered her things, apologized quietly to the surrounding diners, and hurried out after him. She glanced toward Ethan's office, spotting him walking away in a hurry, but she knew she wouldn't be able to catch up. Instead, she took her time walking to her car, the tears she had been holding back finally spilling once she was safely inside. She couldn't understand why her relationship with Lucas was having such an impact on her marriage. Lillian and the other women had lovers and were still happily married. Why couldn't she do the same? She thought about discussing it with her friends, but quickly dismissed the idea. She didn't want them to think she had failed at something they seemed to manage so easily. When she got home, Sophia took her usual afternoon shower, not wanting Ethan to think she'd gone to Lucas for comfort. She hoped the conversation would calm down, and they could talk more rationally later. She needed to address the issue, as things couldn't go on this way. Ethan came home late, around 9 p.m., but at least he had the courtesy to let Sophia know. She made herself dinner and did some light cleaning to pass the time. When he walked in, she asked, Ethan, can we talk, please? I don't know what else there is to say, Sophia. Ethan's voice was heavy with frustration. You've had an affair despite my objections, and it's been going on for nearly a year. Do you think the problem is my affair, not the affair itself? Sophia asked, trying to keep her composure. We won't agree, So what's the point of talking again? I understand that, Sophia replied, her voice softening, but I still believe we could be more than we are. We've been together for 25 years. Surely we can find a way back to something more than this. We are what we are because of your affair, Sophia, Ethan said, his voice cold. It doesn't make sense. Sophia took a deep breath. Ethan, Lillian, Claire, Paige, and Barbara all have happy marriages with lovers on the side. Why can't we do the same? Ethan let out a small, cynical laugh. I spoke to their husbands when this started, except Gordon. His affairs are well known, and everyone knows he cheated on Lillian first. But I spoke to the others. About what? Sophia asked, confused. Initially, I hoped you'd get this out of your system. I let you go on your dates and even meet Lucas for your afternoon trysts a few times. But after the second time, you made it clear you planned to keep seeing him. So, I sought advice from the happy husbands. If they accepted it, maybe they could offer pointers, Ethan explained, his eyes hard. Sophia was stunned into silence. She hadn't known that Ethan had gone to such lengths to understand how others were handling similar situations. She didn't know whether to feel comforted by his efforts or betrayed that he was willing to talk to other men about her behavior instead of confronting her directly. Oh, Ethan, that's sweet. Did they give any advice? Sophia asked, hopeful. They did, and I've applied many of them, Ethan said, watching her carefully. Sophia frowned, sensing something was off. Applied them? I haven't noticed any changes. What have you done differently? Ethan leaned back, unfazed. Did you know that only Martin and Paige still have sex after Paige took a lover? What? Sophia's eyes widened in shock. Martin and Paige had always seemed so solid. Lillian started her affair because of Gordon's infidelity. When Gordon found out, he stopped being with her completely. Didn't affect him much, Ethan explained. Sophia shook her head, refusing to believe it. I don't believe it. Lillian always says they're happy. She wouldn't lie to me. She's saving face, Ethan replied. They barely spend time together except for public events. They have separate bedrooms and only communicate through texts and emails. That can't be true, Sophia murmured, struggling to grasp this new reality. Barbara and Frank didn't have much of a marriage to begin with, Ethan continued. When Barbara found out about Lillian's affair, she did the same. Their marriage didn't improve, but they're still married, and Barbara is happier now. Sophia was still in disbelief. But Barbara always praises their marriage. Probably because she wants to look good in front of everyone. Image is everything for women like Lillian and Barbara, Ethan said. But they're my friends. They be honest with me. Why would they lie? Sophia asked, her voice trembling. Ethan sighed. You really think their husbands haven't been in on it? They just manage things differently. Sophia shook her head. I can't believe this. I can't believe my friends would lie to me. And I doubt the husbands are going without sex, except Gordon. Ethan remained calm. Oh, they're not going without. They've hired personal assistants, women to meet those needs. Sophia blinked, trying to process. Personal assistants? Ethan nodded. I hired Amber shortly after your little speech about Lucas. I was honest about needing help with a new position. Amber has a business degree and came highly recommended. At first, everything was professional. Sophia was losing her grip on the conversation. And then, Ethan continued, we spent a lot of time together, got to know each other. After a couple of months, I opened up to her about what you were doing. It was such a relief to talk to someone. Sophia bit her lip. So that's when I noticed you seemed different. I thought you were coming around, she said, bitterness creeping in. Ethan didn't react. After that, we shared almost everything. It became easy, comfortable, lots of flirting, innuendo. I was confident she was attracted to me, and I was definitely attracted to her. Sophia's heart sank. When did you start sleeping with her? She asked, her voice stiff. A couple of months ago, Ethan replied, without hesitation. But unlike you, I didn't rush into bed with someone I met at a coffee shop. Sophia recoiled from the sharpness of his words. So you think I rushed into things with Lucas? Ethan's tone softened slightly. I didn't mean it like that, but you've made your choices, and I've made mine. Sophia's chest tightened. It's not the same, Ethan. My time with Lucas didn't interfere with you. But you've been going behind my back. Ethan's eyes darkened. True, but you went outside the marriage first. I just responded. And to be honest, I appreciate that you kept it separate. Sophia felt a knot form in her stomach. She hadn't realized how deeply her affair had affected him. She had thought it was something she could keep compartmentalized, but it wasn't. For a long moment, silence fell between them. Finally, Ethan spoke, his voice quieter. There's something else I need to tell you, Sophia. She looked at him, bracing herself. What is it? Ethan hesitated, then said, Amber's pregnant. About 2 months along. Sophia's blood ran cold. What? She gasped. It's yours? Ethan didn't flinch. She assures me it is. But I'll be making sure. Sophia's mind went blank. How did this happen? Ethan took a deep breath. It was intentional. The words hit her like a punch to the gut. The room seemed to shrink around her. For the first time, she realized the full scope of what she had done and what Ethan had done in return. Sophia felt like her world was crumbling. So, this is it then? This is the end? Ethan didn't answer immediately. His gaze was cold, unreadable. But Sophia could see the truth in his eyes. Their marriage had already ended long ago. After a long silence, Sophia's voice broke. I can't do this anymore, Ethan. I can't live like this. Ethan didn't react, his expression still a mask. But Sophia could see the weight of what had been said between them, the irrevocable changes, the unspoken finality of it all. With a heavy heart, she stood up. She couldn't bear to stay in that room any longer. As she walked out, the weight of their shattered marriage pressed down on her. There was no going back now. Sophia's mind reeled from yet another blow. She wasn't sure how much more she could take, but she had to know everything. It was time to lay everything out in the open, no matter how much it hurt. You got her pregnant on purpose? But why? She asked, struggling to understand. Ethan met her gaze, his voice steady. I have a valuable company, Sophia. We own it outright, and I have no one to leave it to. I had planned to sell it eventually, but I don't want to. My employees are like family, and I can't leave their future to some stranger. Sophia's mind raced. So you're leaving the company to Amber or the baby? She asked quietly. That's the plan. Depending on timing, I'll pass it on to one of them, Ethan replied. Are you divorcing me? Sophia asked, her voice trembling slightly. Not yet, Ethan answered. I plan to keep things as they are. Amber wants to marry me, and even paid for a prenup in my favor. But she's okay with things staying the same for now, as long as we're together. So, it's a free-for-all. I can still see Lucas, and you get Amber, Sophia said, the sharpness in her voice matching her disbelief. Ethan didn't react, but Sophia's heart dropped. This was not how she imagined her marriage unraveling. She grabbed her purse and keys. I need some time to process this. I'll take a drive. I'll be late. I'll text you, so you won't worry, Sophia added before walking out. She drove aimlessly around the city, her mind whirling. How had things gotten so bad? Her husband, the man she had built her life with, was having a baby with another woman. A woman she hadn't even known about until recently. Young, beautiful, and mysterious. Ethan sent periodic texts, always ending with, "Please be safe," which comforted her in a strange way. She was still important to him, at least on some level. She returned home around 2 a.m., exhausted and emotionally drained. Ethan was asleep, but he had left her bedside lamp on. She quietly changed for bed and emerged to find him sitting up, concern written on his face. Are you okay, Sophia? I'm fine, Ethan, but I'm tired. Let's talk tomorrow, she replied softly. The next day, there was nothing left to say. Ethan went to work, and Sophia met with her friends. She almost canceled her afternoon with Lucas, but didn't. It turned out to be a relief. He noticed something was wrong, and instead of sex, they talked. Later, when they did make love, it was slow and gentle, almost tender. The weeks that followed were a blur. Ethan's late nights at the office continued, and though she understood, it still stung. Sophia found herself feeling physically ill more often, her stomach in knots. She took this as a sign that the state of her marriage had finally caught up with her. Finally, she decided to see a doctor. Sophia stepped off the elevator at Ethan's office building, her mind focused. She walked past Derek, the receptionist, who tried to stop her. Mrs. Harper, wait. He and Amber are in there? Sophia smiled gently. It's okay, Derek. I know about them. Derek's eyes widened, but she didn't stop her. Sophia made her way down the hallway to Ethan's office and entered without knocking. Inside, Ethan and Amber froze. Amber quickly jumped off Ethan's lap and ran into the restroom. What are you doing here, Sophia? Ethan asked, irritation creeping into his voice. We need to talk, she replied calmly, her eyes flicking to Amber as she reappeared. Ethan's voice was sharp. Couldn't this wait until tonight? I wanted to do it here. It concerns both of you, Sophia said, motioning to the couch. They sat, Ethan on one end, Sophia on the other, with Amber perched behind him. Sophia handed Ethan a file folder. What's this? He asked, flipping it open. I'm divorcing you, Ethan, Sophia said flatly. Ethan stared at her, his face a mixture of disbelief and shock. You're divorcing me? Yes, I think you'll find the terms agreeable, Sophia said calmly. Ethan skimmed the terms of the filing. There was nothing objectionable. In fact, it was less than what the court might award her. But there was one thing he didn't understand. Why now? Ethan asked, his confusion evident. For a couple of reasons, Sophia answered softly, but mostly because I love you. Ethan furrowed his brow. You love me? After everything? I've loved you since we met at Fiona Grant's pool party when we were 17. We've been together for almost 26 years. I want you to be happy, Sophia said, her voice cracking. I made a bad choice. I damaged us beyond repair. So, I'm setting you free. Sophia glanced at Amber, whose face lit up at the news. Ethan was too stunned to speak. What about you? Ethan finally managed. I'm going to be fine, Ethan. Your generosity will take care of me. I'm starting a new chapter, and it's scary but also exciting, Sophia replied. Ethan looked at her, his face unreadable. So, you'll be alone? No, Ethan, Sophia said, smiling faintly. I won't be alone for long. I'm pregnant. Ethan's jaw dropped, and Amber's eyes widened. The room went silent as they processed her words. It's Lucas's, Sophia clarified, watching Ethan's expression shift. He hadn't slept with her in months, so it had to be Lucas's. Are you two going to make a go of it? Ethan asked. No, Sophia said, shaking her head. Lucas is and always will be a bachelor. We're not a match. I don't love him, but he's been great about child support, and he plans to make an effort to be a good father. Ethan was silent, staring at the folder in his hands. You're keeping the baby? He finally asked, though the question was rhetorical. Yes, Sophia replied. I'll raise my child with the help of a live-in nanny, which you'll be indirectly paying for. That's why I wanted to keep the house. Ethan nodded, not surprised. I understand. It makes sense. Sophia smiled wistfully. I love that house. It's perfect for me and the baby. Ethan paused, then asked, Do your friends know? Oh yes, Sophia said. They feel guilty for encouraging me, but I assured them it was my decision. I'm the only one getting a divorce, so I guess that's something. If you ever need anything, call me, Ethan said. Sophia smiled, but there was no warmth in her eyes. I will stand on my own 2 feet now, Ethan. I've always relied on someone else, but I won't anymore. I promise I'll call if I need to. With that, she stood up. Ethan and Amber followed her. Sophia hugged them both and turned to leave.